So generally two things happen to me once I finish a game for the first time. I either exit the credits right away, jump to the next thing, or I kind of sit there, listen to the music, watch the credits roll, and think about and soak in what I just played. And I'll have to say with Hellblade 2, it was the latter, not the former. So this game to me is special, so you are going to hear me kind of gush over it a little bit. But at the same time, I want to be transparent, and this is going to be an honest review. So, by no means is the game perfect, but I do believe that it isn't quite deserving of all the controversy it's been getting, and it is a very special game when it comes to a lot of different aspects, right? The first of those being the visuals and audio and presentation in general, right? So this is going to be a spoiler free review, so I'm going to try and keep it as spoiler free as possible. The game starts out, Senua is on a slave ship heading to the north. I don't want to spoil too much of the first game either, so I'm being considerate of that because some of you may have not even played the first game either. So, but I will say that without saying too much, Senua is not Nordic. She's from somewhere else. Her people have been slaves to the Vikings pretty much her whole life, and this is a personal adventure of hers. She purposely gets caught, and because that is her only way to the north, she wants to try and do whatever she can to free her people. From what I can tell, it looks like it takes place in Iceland or Norway. It doesn't necessarily specifically say exactly, but if I had to guess, it kind of looks like Iceland or Norway, maybe a mixture of the two. Now, first of all, I want to point out that what Ninja Theory has done here is create something truly special with the visual and audio design, right? And you can tell. I mean, the raindrops, the mud. Melina Juergens, speaking of, she has to win performance of the year. And I know we're early in the year still, but I just wanted to point her out specifically. She does a wonderful job, elevated even from the first game. And she's great, and along with the rest of the cast, and the writing as well is very, very well done. But anyways, the presentation alone deserves high praise because it's like upper echelon elite. We're talking I mean, God of War 2018, and then of course Ragnarok, both technical marvels, right? As far as how they were shot, them being a one shot, you never, the screen never cuts away. Well, this game does that too, and it does it in a little bit of a different way, but it never really fades to black. And I'll get back to that in a moment. This is here. I just wanted to showcase. I did play this game on PC, and I wanted to check to make sure I was getting the maximum frames, at least 60. The game was auto set to 30, but I was still running it at a constant 59 to 61. So I just wanted to show if you're playing it on PC, go into those settings immediately and kind of adjust that there, because even though it was targeted at 30 by default, it was still, to me, it looked like it was running at 60. I just needed to double check. Also, if you have 3D audio headphones, that is the definitive way to play this game. There's actually the first screen that pops up is it's meant to be played with 3D audio, and it highly elevates it. I could never even imagine playing it without it. So if you have the means to do so, I highly recommend you do that, and more on that later. But let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, if you will. So a lot's been talked about the length of this game, and I clocked in a full platinum run of the first game at 9 hours. Granted, I did play it once before on Xbox. That's the original way I played it. But 9 hours for the platinum on the first game. And to my surprise, actually, I clocked in 7 hours 48 minutes for Hellblade 2. And I didn't go for all the trophies on this one. I did get a couple, but I did do a lot of looking around and mess with photo mode a little bit, maybe like 20 minutes. But it surprised me when I seen that was my runtime. So all this 4 to 5 hours, I don't know where people are getting it. I mean, I guess it is possible probably if you rush through it. But I just wanted to point that out. So the game's kind of broken up into three different types of gameplay. Like a lot of moving forward. A lot of people are comparing it to a walking sim. And that brings up a point I wanted to mention here is, since when did walking sims become like not good? I mean, there's some great ones out there, right? Like What Remains of Edith Finch. I played a great one earlier this year called Fort Solace, and that had no combat in it whatsoever. So I don't know where all the hate is coming from. But either way, onto the puzzles. They're kind of the same from the original game. You kind of like have to find the placement of these runes in the environment and match them up. But I just felt like they were done at a higher quality in this game, and they get kind of mixed up too. I don't want to show the later puzzles, but they are much more involved. There is less of them too, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. And I didn't really get tired or confused on any of them. I actually was really going back to the presentation, like even in the puzzles, they're presented in such a unique way that it kind of forces you to just take it all in, and a lot of heavy audio cues, and back to the 3D audio. If you're using the 3D headphones, it's really cool, like, because Senua has psychosis, right? And she has these voices in her head, these two different women, like her conscience, I guess. And one woman will be on the left, the other to the right. And along with all the other sound, you'll hear whispers, and it's got a very creepy vibe to it. It is definitely a psychologically horror-filled game. Not in the sense of jump scares. And there's a couple actually that kind of got me, but it's more of just psychological. The environment is very creepy. The voices you hear talking to you are intense. Even the enemies you face that are human, like this guy right here, and we're gonna get into combat now. It's just all very well done, and it never stops. There's never really any dead air. You know, even as much walking as you do, it's constantly pushing the story forward. Like, these voices are talking to Senua what she needs to do, where she needs to go, can she do it? Like, constantly pushing forward. You know, it's great. It's really well done. I never felt myself getting bored. I just honestly, we'll get into the combat now, because to me this is on an elite level. And it's very simple mechanically, but I mean that in the utmost respect, because it's fully choreographed. It looks real. It's chunky. It's weighty. The expressions on the faces, the way the camera pans, it's just all really, really well done. You have your basic attack, your heavy attack, you have a parry, and you have a dodge. And depending on the enemy's attacks, the dodge and parry are utilized in different ways, right? So, and it's really satisfying to get that perfect parry and kind of like stagger your enemy backwards and deliver some crushing blows to it. And then it gets a little bit advanced later too, and you'll see, and I'll explain what that is kind of without spoiling it. But the fight systems, I mean, it's all one shot. It never cuts away. Like I said earlier, it's all one-on-one this time. In the last game, there were parts, especially towards the end, where you'd be fighting like multiple enemies at once, and you'd kind of have to watch your back and flip to person behind you, and it was really good. It was good combat system, but sometimes, to be honest, with the first game, I felt myself wanting to like just hurry up and get the fight over with and see the next like story segment. With this game, complete opposite. I wanted, of course, to hear the story, but the story is also told during combat, which doesn't happen very often. I can't really think of a game that does that and actually it works, right? So I love the switch to the one-on-one combat, and in some of the later fights, it actually feels, even though you are fighting one person at a time, it does feel like you're in constant danger all around you, because you can see the way that it's shot and filmed and the sounds. You can hear fighting going on all around you. There are some pretty large scale battles towards the end, and one of them in particular, which I'm not showing in this video because I want you all to experience for the first time. I was sweating. I was completely blown away by how it was done. It's a night battle with a bunch of other people around. It's really, really good. But yeah, so the combat, once you get good at it. Also, I wanted to point out too, originally I was gonna put my review out a few days ago, and my footage was corrupted, so I thought I had to go back into the game and kind of re-record, right? But then I realized I had it backed up on a flash drive. So this is all my first experience with the game. This is not like me, after mastering the combat, going back in. I played it on normal. I do plan to go back and play it on hard, but even on normal, like towards the end, like it does get pretty, like the combat's not easy. It might look like I'm just rolling. Wow, look at that. That is, that's incredible. I didn't just roll through fights easily. Like, it's not the hardest thing in the world, but it definitely has a skill factor into it, right? The timing window seems to be much shorter than the first game when you're parrying and things of that nature. So you're also fighting human enemies in this game, and I thought that was a much needed touch from the first one. So without spoiling anything, the enemies' variety and type is completely different from the first game, right? So also, I don't think I've seen one repeated death animation throughout the whole game. Maybe some similar ones, but they all seemed unique to me, and the camera work panning around and showcasing Senua's face and her anger and also fear, it's just a really, really well done. I mean, when it comes to like the writing and like the dialogue, it honestly, like, I would not be surprised if this game stole a bunch of awards at the end of the year, like the Game Awards. Like, not Game of the Year, it's probably more than likely not going to win that, and that's fine. But as far as like technical prowess, like, it has to win a couple of those. Like, and for sure, I would say like audio visual design, right? Because this is like seriously the closest to photorealism that I think we've gotten so far. And I think that's what took them so long to make. Like, they really had to harness Unreal 5. They were one of the first teams to start using it. And also, I think that it was a little bit of Microsoft holding them back, too, from releasing it. I mean, the first game came out in 2017. This game was announced in 2019, and we just got it, 7 years after the first game. And that's unacceptable, and that actually kind of puts a bad name on the game itself, and I don't think that that's fully Ninja Theory's fault. They had a vision. They were very transparent about what kind of game it was going to be, right? They said that it was going to be very similar to the first game, but just elevated, right? And I believe they fully achieved that. Like, if I don't put numbers on my reviews, I do look at Metacritic and kind of just, for my general senses of how critics view a game and kind of gauge it from there. But numbers don't bother me. Like I don't number my games. But oddly enough, Hellblade 1 and 2 are both sitting at the same exact score on Metacritic, and I'm not sure if it's 81 or 83, but they have the same exact Metacritic score. So to say this is a downgrade or a step backwards, that's just ridiculous to even think about. But going back to like how earlier I was mentioning how it's a one shot, but it does it kind of in different ways than like God of War did. After like a main set piece of the game and like a conversation with one of her allies or whatever, it'll do this like sweep out camera, like it'll like pan up to an aerial view and kind of like move through the clouds and then like come back and settle back down on them, and they're in a new area, which I thought was really cool. It was a way to keep the game in that one shot focus without having the focus entirely on Senua at all times. And I couldn't tell you how many times I was blown away. There's a segment later that I won't spoil, but I do want to point out how it mixes the audio and visual perfectly. Like it's, I guess you can call it a boss fight. And basically what it is there's this entity that you're trying to get to. Not entity, just, a creature, a boss. And the boss is utilizing its power to kind of like pulsate these blasts out. And you have to like run from one spot to another to take shelter. But every time the blast is sent out, it's cued in with the music perfectly to the beat. And I couldn't help myself but just like, I was just wowed by that. I thought that was so cool. Not to say it's the first game to ever do that. I'm sure there's other games that have done that. This was like very noticeable immediately. And I just wanted to point that out. So, that's all the positives, I would say, for me. I highly recommend it. And if you have not played the first one, please do yourself a favor and play that first, because even though this game does open with previously on backstory, it doesn't really give you the full experience of what Senua went through in that game to where she is now. So if you're thinking about checking this game out, which I highly recommend you do, I mean, it's on Game Pass. If you have Game Pass, you might as well do it. And the first one's on there too. So you could play through them, in a weekend or whatever, and make up your own mind, right? Make up your own mind and how you feel. It's not for the faint of heart. It does deal a lot with like mental issues, which I have myself. But it's also therapeutic to me in a way. Like it really showcases like the struggle of one woman or one person, and it's done very, very sincere and really, really, really cool. This is a later fight. I wanted you to see how different it gets, right? This is, complete darkness, but you can see fighting in the background, and that is like your special ability that you get, and it's a retainer. It rolls over from the first game. I'm not going to explain what it is. You'll figure it out. But it's significant to her as a person, and it kind of just like slows everything down. It's kind of like a redeem yourself. Like if you have that available, activate it, and it kind of slows down time, and you can get in some hits and eliminate an enemy and gain some of your health back. So yeah, so negatively, I mean, all I can really say is, even though this game fully does have an ending and a through line, like it's not a cliffhanger ending of any sort, but it does leave it open to a third game. And I really, really hope, due to the negativity that this game has gotten, I really, really hope Xbox doesn't, axe Ninja Theory over like a lackluster sales or whatever, because I mean, this game is, people are calling it a tech demo, like, and it could Yeah, I'm not gonna say it isn't, because I mean, we don't get games like this very often, right? But at the same time, this is a full-on video game. Like, there are systems in here. The combat, requires, knowing how to do it. The puzzles also require, knowing how to navigate and what to do. This is a video game through and through, as far as art goes, this is a masterpiece. It could have ran longer, sure, but it didn't overstay its welcome either. And I really hope Microsoft sees that and lets Ninja Theory do their thing and at least make a finale to the series, because it's deserving of it. A lot of people, they put their heart and soul into this. Melina Juergens herself said how much she has put at this game and character has changed her life. So at the end of the day, I just really hope that, more people experience it and love it for what it is. And like I said, you don't have to buy the game, right? It's $50. You don't have to buy it. It's on Game Pass. If you subscribe, you might as well do it. One thing I will say, I played it on PC. I don't know how a Series S would handle this game. I'm probably gonna check it out and maybe do a comparison, but I just don't know how that system would be able to handle this game. So if you got a good PC, do it that way. Utilize the 3D headphones, and I think if you're into this type of, psychological horror, or even like history in general, into Vikings at all, do yourself a favor and check this one out, and don't do it until you played the first one. So with that being said, I hope you guys liked my rant, 22-minute long review of a game that I've been waiting 5 years to play. So thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Have a great one.
sSaga! Run! We were lucky. Come on.
It all just stopped.